WHGE 95.3 FM coming up, the Open Eye.
Those of us that indulge in or commit intellectual violence don't do so for the pleasure of mental masturbation or ego digging. We do so because the chains of oppression in our people's minds are deep and difficult to remove.
Good morning, my children of the sun. Welcome to the Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm your host, third eye optometrist, Patrice Gibbs. All right, here to get them started. Yes, I know, I'm a little late here. Got 9 little difficulties this morning. We're going to get them worked out. All right. Every generation has its purpose. Ours is to reveal the truth and reverse the brainwashing. All right, let me get my disclaimer out the way right quick.
The views and opinions expressed on Open Eye are those of the hosts, guests, and contributors and do not reflect the policy or position of WHGE 95.3 FM, nor our sponsor, the Delaware Center for Homeless Vets. Any content provided by Open Eye's hosts, guests, or contributors are theirs and are not intended to belong in any religion, ethnic group, company, or industry. The views and opinions expressed on Open Eye are those of the hosts, guests, and contributors and do not reflect the policy or position of...
All right, let's get them started. Let's get right into it here. Start here. America's greatest myth. All right? Every nation has a founding myth. America's greatest myth is that it's the greatest country on earth. We've heard it our entire lives. Politicians say it, television say it, schools teach it, children pledge allegiance to it before they're old enough to question it. But the propaganda isn't proof. Right? If America is the greatest country on earth, then prove it. Don't point to the size of the military. Don't point to Wall Street. Don't point to billionaires. Show me how the people live. Because greatness isn't measured by the wealth of a few. It's measured by the well-being of the many. How can America call itself the greatest nation on earth when children are slaughtered in classrooms with a frequency unmatched by other wealthier democracies? How can America call itself the greatest nation when millions fear getting sick because one medical emergency can destroy everything that you spent a lifetime building? How can America call itself the greatest nation when people would rather call an Uber than an ambulance because they're terrified of the bill? How can America call itself the greatest nation when mothers are forced back to work because paid maternity leave isn't guaranteed nationwide? How can America call itself the greatest nation when healthcare is treated like a luxury instead of a human necessity? How can America call itself the greatest nation when corporations make billions deciding whether sick people deserve treatment they've already paid insurance companies to cover? How can America call itself the greatest nation when life-saving medicine becomes another opportunity for corporate greed? How can America call itself the greatest nation when private prison companies profit from incarceration and taxpayers are sometimes obligated to compensate those companies if prison populations fall below contractual levels? That's not justice. That's commerce masquerading as justice. America constantly calls itself the land of the free. Yet America incarcerates more people than any other nation. Freedom isn't measured by slogans. Freedom is measured by opportunity. Freedom is measured by security. Freedom is measured by whether ordinary people can live with dignity. And on too many of those measures, America falls short of its own promises. Then there's corruption. America loves lecturing the world about corruption. But if a corporation has millions of dollars to influence legislation, America doesn't call it bribery. The label changes. The influence remains. When money speaks louder than voters, democracy becomes something that can be purchased by those who can afford the highest bid. And we don't get into that. How can America call itself a Christian nation when homelessness is accepted as normal? How can America call itself a Christian nation when millions work full-time and still can't afford to live? How can America call itself a Christian nation when seniors must choose between food and medicine? How can America call itself a Christian nation when veterans who risk their lives for this country sleep on the sidewalk? America preaches compassion on Sunday and too often rewards indifference on Monday. That's not greatness. That's hypocrisy. America has convinced millions that criticizing the company is somehow unpatriotic. No, blind loyalty is not patriotism. Real patriotism demands that you question your country, that you confront it when it fails. That's real patriotism. Because greatness isn't something you declare. Greatness is something you demonstrate. A great nation doesn't sacrifice its people to protect corporate profits. A great nation doesn't measure success by stock prices while families drown in debt. A great nation doesn't ask working people to finance tax breaks for billionaires while telling them there's no money for health care, housing, education, or child care. America possesses extraordinary wealth, extraordinary talent, and extraordinary potential, but potential is not achievement. Until the average worker matters as much as the average shareholder, until every child matters more than every quarterly earnings report, until human life is valued above corporate profit, America should stop demanding the world accept this claim of greatness. Because greatness isn't a slogan. Greatness is earned. And until America puts its people before its profits, the greatest country on earth remains a marketing campaign, not a measurable reality. This is the Open Eye. Hey, Brother Haru, I see you there. Hey, Mountain. All right. WHGE 95.3 FM. This is the Open Eye. Booker. Where that button at, man? Let me turn this mic off. Fuck you, Cory Booker. You piece of shit. All right. Cory Booker, what was you thinking? What was you thinking? There's a time to be gracious and there's a time to remember who you represent. When a political opponent suffers a personal loss, okay. Basic human decency requires condolences. See, sometimes I don't give a damn about basic human decency when I'm dealing with somebody that hates me. The Booker, since you're in the public stage, all you needed to say was my condolences to Graham and his family, period, end of statement. And even that's too damn much. Especially for a son of a bitch like that. But instead, you chose to shower Lindsey Graham with glowing praise. What the hell? Why? Why would you do that? This is a man whose political career has repeatedly aligned with policies that black Americans know have undermined voting rights, judicial fairness, civil rights protection, and racial justice. Whether you call him a conservative or something worse, which I do, millions of your own supporters, Booker, see Lindsey Graham not as a symbol of courage or any moral leadership. He ain't had no morals. And when you elevate him with heartfelt admiration, you don't just comfort a grieving colleague, you confuse and alienate the very people that sent you to Washington. The hell's wrong with you? See, that's the problem with too many of you Democrats. They're so determined to prove they can be civil to those who fight against their agenda that they forget the people they're supposed to be fighting for. Politics is not a country club. It's not a fraternity. It's not an exclusive dinner party where everyone hugs after spending the day attacking each other's constituents. Excuse me, I couldn't get that out. The Senate may be a workplace for politicians, but the consequences of what happens there are lived by ordinary, everyday people. Families lose health care, communities lose voting rights, workers lose protections, students lose opportunities. These are not abstract debates. They're real lives. Okay, statesmanship does not require rewriting someone's political legacy because they're grieving. Compassion and honesty can exist at the same time. Okay, go ahead and offer your condolences. Okay, and then shut up. Because every unnecessary compliment directed at someone whose record has caused pain to millions sounds less like leadership and more like political performance. Because I'm going to say this clear so you know. The best thing a son of a bitch like Lindsey Graham could have done for the world was to leave it. This is the Open Eye. WHGE 95.3 FM. This is the Open Eye. All right. One of the greatest psychological confessions of white supremacy is this. They assume every pro-black movement must be anti-white. Why? Because every major pro-white movement in American history has been built on being anti-black. Think about it. Slavery wasn't just about helping white people. It required the brutal exploitation of black people. And when I say brutal, that's light. Jim Crow wasn't about improving white lives. It depended on denying black people equal rights. Segregation wasn't about white self-love. It was about black exclusion. Redlining wasn't about building white neighborhoods. It was about keeping black families out. The Ku Klux Klan didn't march because they loved white culture. They marched because they hated black freedom. So when you hear black people say, we need black schools, black businesses, black economic power, black political organization, and black self-determination, they automatically assume there must be a hidden desire to dominate, exclude, or oppress white people. How come? Because domination is the only model of power that they've ever known. They cannot imagine a movement built on healing instead of hatred, because the movements that protected their privilege were all built on hatred. Being pro-black is not the same as being anti-white. Wanting black children to receive a quality education is not anti-white. Wanting black communities to control more of their own wealth is not anti-white, and it's not anti-Asian, you racist bastards. Wanting fair treatment under the law is not anti-white. Wanting to preserve black history, black culture, black institutions is not anti-white. These are not demands for supremacy. They're demands for dignity. The irony is almost impossible to miss. The people who spent centuries creating systems of racial hierarchy now accuse black people of wanting hierarchy whenever black people demand equality or self-determination. That accusation says far more about the accuser than the accused. If your only understanding of group solidarity is domination, then every call for black empowerment sounds like revenge. But black liberation has never required white oppression. Justice is not oppression. Equality is not revenge. Self-determination is not hatred. We just want you to leave us the hell alone. Probably the greatest evidence that someone has internalized the logic of white supremacy is that they could not imagine black people organizing for themselves without imagining someone else must be pushed down. That isn't a description of black consciousness. It's a confession about the history that you inherited and the lens through which you see the world. It is by the grace of God, by the grace of the Creator, that black people are not murderous, vengeful people. You should thank God for that. This is the open eye. Hey, Dane. Thank you. Hit me. All right. WHGE 95.3 FM is your third eye optometrist. All right. Hey, cuz, I see you there. Let's talk about Hakeem Jeffries. Where's the mic? Fuck you, Hakeem Jeffries. Okay, back on there. You know, the Democratic leader, the man who claims to speak for Black America. Because recently, Jeffries stood at a podium and declared, Israel today, Israel tomorrow, Israel forever. That sound familiar? Let me tell you something, that wasn't accidental. And it wasn't a slip, it wasn't a coincidence. Jeffries a seasoned politician. He knows rhetoric. He knows history. He knows cadence. He knows exactly what he's saying and exactly where it comes from. Because that line echoes one of the most infamous declarations in American political history. George Wallace. Segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. And that's the line you use? Wallace used that line to defend a system of racial oppression. Jeffries used his version to declare unwavering loyalty to the racist Israeli government during a moment of global outrage and humanitarian crisis. And whether he intended the parallel or not, the symbolism is staggering. Because when a black congressional leader echoes the rhetoric structure of a segregationist and does it while voting with 215 Republicans to send billions to Israel, it raises a question that can't be ignored. Who the hell is Hakeem Jeffries fighting for? Because it sure doesn't look like he's fighting for black America. Let's be clear. Jeffries' words were deliberate. Absolutely deliberate. And he knew the political weight. He knew the message he was sending. And the message was not to the black community. It was to AIPAC. It was to Israel. And it was to donors. Sellout son of a bitch. And excuse me. Yeah, it was to the political establishment that rewards loyalty to foreign interests while ignoring domestic suffering. This is the same Hakeem Jeffries who joined Republicans, the same Republicans he tells us are a threat to democracy. He joined them to send billions to a rogue regime. Dollars he sent over there, while black communities here at home are starved of investment, starved of opportunity, and starved of justice. The same Hakeem Jeffries that accepted that AIPAC money along with a long list of black caucus members. And then turned around and voted in alignment with the very, very political forces that oppose reparations, oppose voting rights, oppose economic justice for black people. And let's widen the lens. The Congressional Black Caucus, the group that calls itself the Conscience of America, if they're the Conscience of America, America's brain dead. Lined up with Republicans. Meanwhile, the Congressional Black Caucus, their own communities, look at their districts drowning in poverty, underfunded schools, food deserts, environmental racism, and generational economic exclusion. And some of these districts look like they've been abandoned by the federal government for decades. Oh, but their representatives, like James Clyburn, oh, they're well funded, they're well connected. And they're well aligned with lobbyists who know exactly how to buy political power. That's not representation, that's not liberation. And it sure as hell ain't no moral leadership. See, I'll tell you who these people are. This is the same political class that grew out of the civil rights era. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, these are the decadent colonialists that turned their back on Dr. King. They turned on Dr. King the moment he started talking about poverty, war, and economic justice. The moment he challenged American imperialism, the moment he said the United States was the greatest purveyor of violence in the world, King became inconvenient for them. And inconvenient leaders don't survive in Washington. The CBC inherited King's language, but abandoned King's courage. They inherited the symbolism, but surrendered the substance. They inherited the legacy, but they embraced the lobbyists. And now we had Democratic leaders out here paraphrasing the cadence of George Wallace and voting with Republicans to send billions of dollars to the genocidal machine that is Israel. The same Israel, one of their leaders got up and said, part of Israel's greatest problem in America is black youth. And this is who you send money to. Son of a bitch, you. And you know what? If that doesn't tell you something's broken, I don't know what will. And let me ask you loudly, directly, and unapologetically. What does representation mean when the representative no longer represents us? What does leadership mean when leaders follow the money instead of the people? And what does the conscience of Congress mean when the conscience is bought and paid for? See, Black America deserves better. Black America deserves a fighter or fighters, because it was, 19 the CBC that voted with the Republicans. See, Black America deserves leaders who will stand with the oppressed, not with the donors who fund the oppression. Too many so-called representatives then left the building. Hey, what price? What price is your soul? And you don't know who they are. Joyce Beatty, Yvette Clarke, Gregory Meeks, Frederica Wilson, Mark Vesey, Kwasi Mfume. Yeah. Of course, Hakeem Jeffries. And that sorry ass James Clyburn. The same fool that got up and said, oh, we got to fund the police. Yeah. The title, Conscious Congress, it wasn't earned. And you're not going to earn it through some press conferences. That's earned by courage. And that's something you bastards don't know a damn thing about. This is the Open Eye. I'm Patrice Gibbs. WHGE 95.3 FM. Oh Lord, got some stuff going on outside. Jeez Louise. Anyway, WHGE 95.3 FM. I hope y'all can hear that background. They cutting up. All right, y'all, get it together. Okay, America spent $4 trillion in the Middle East. You know that? That's a lot of money, man. $4 trillion. Meanwhile, this is what China spent $4 trillion on. Listen up. China spent on the world's largest high-speed rail system, spanning more than 50,000 kilometers. They spent on the massive Three Gorges Dam, the world's largest hydroelectric dam. More than 200 new airports. The world's largest 5G network with more towers than the rest of the world combined. Over 40 million units of affordable housing, providing homes for roughly 100 million low-income residents. The world's largest sea bridge, stretching approximately 50 kilometers. The world's largest fleet of nuclear reactors under construction and expansion. an advanced national electrical grid, the entire Belt and Road Initiative, building ports, railways, highways, and infrastructure in more than 140 different countries. More than 2 million solar panels, including the world's largest solar farm. A fully operational space station. They got a rover on Mars, y'all. The first nation to return samples from the far side of the moon. A 2,700-mile canal system with the world's largest water diversion project. An entire high-tech city built from scratch. The whole city is high-tech. Look it up. More than 7,700 offshore wind turbines, making China the world's leader in offshore wind power. Meanwhile, the idiot in the diaper, in the dirty diaper, and the morons in the Republican Party telling people to win, they're sucking up too much wind. What the hell? The Green Great Wall, which has planted more than 70 billion trees to combat desertification, deforestation. 7 of the world's 10 busiest seaports. It's amazing what a nation can build with $4 trillion when they invest in people instead of spending it on war. America's 250 years old. About 240 of them years, America been at war. America loves to call China its greatest competitor. Now here's the question nobody in Washington wants to answer. What exactly are we competing in? Because while America spent roughly $4 trillion fighting wars across the Middle East over 2 decades, China spent comparable sums of money building the foundation of a 21st century superpower. America bought missiles. China built high-speed rails. Right here in Delaware, it take you an hour to go from one side of town to the other. 2-3 buses. Especially you leave the city of Wilmington, go to Newark, you lie to be on the bus all day. Yeah. Like I said, America bought bombs. China built affordable housing for millions of people. America built military bases. China built airports, ports, bridges, power grids, solar farms, wind farms, and a space station. America has the most powerful military in human history. Allegedly. Oh, nobody can dispute that. But military power is not the same as national strength. A nation's real strength is measured by the quality of life it provides to its people. Can your children get a good education? Can families afford a home? Can workers get to their jobs efficiently? Can seniors retire with dignity? Do the lights stay on? No. Just had a power failure this week in my building. Because the damn transformer blew up because we don't know what the hell we doing. Can bridges stand? Can trains run? Can clean water reach every community? No. Because our infrastructure is controlled by a bunch of psychopaths that are busy polluting the environment and destroying clean water. These are the same questions that determine whether a civilization is advancing or declining. For decades, Americans were told that every war was necessary. Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria. Trillions of dollars flowed overseas while roads crumbled, schools deteriorated, public transit lagged far behind so-called third world countries. Affordable housing became scarce, and millions of Americans struggled to pay for health care, child care, and education. Every bomb has an opportunity cost. Every missile launch is money that cannot repair a bridge. Every military venture is money that cannot modernize a rail system, rebuild a city, or invest in scientific discovery. What does America do? It cuts funding for scientific research. Yeah. Because America has this love of ignorance. You had especially that's why Trump said he would run as a Republican, because they're dumb. Well, it's not nice to call people dumb. That's what the hell they are. Yeah. Every military adventure is money that cannot modernize a rail system, rebuild a city, or invest in scientific discovery. That required repeating. Because imagine if even a fraction of those trillions had been invested here at home. Imagine world-class infrastructure in every state. Imagine modern rail connecting major American cities. You know what the head of our railway said? Boy, China's wasting all that money. Wasting. That's their mindset. You imagine affordable housing on a scale that reduces homelessness instead of allowing it to grow and making it normal. Imagine universal broadband, upgraded electrical grids, clean energy, and cutting-edge research becoming America's defining achievements instead of endless war. Endless unnecessary war. Didn't listen to Eisenhower when he warned you about the military-industrial complex. History remembers civilizations not only for the battles they fought, but for the monuments they built, the innovations they created, and the lives they improved. Empires measure success by how much territory they can dominate. Great nations measure success by how much opportunity they create for their own people. The question America must answer is really simple. Will America continue investing in endless wars? Or will America finally start investing in the American people? Because history has already shown us that the greatest legacy of a nation is not the enemies it defeated. When you think about Egypt as compared to Rome, you think about what Egypt built, not what they conquered. This is the open eye. WHGE 95.3 FM. The open eye. Let me give you a example of how Americans do things. Okay. And this is just a sample, because it happens all over, and I'm going to get with that. Wrong color, wrong clothes, broken arm, same excuse. Oh, police said they were looking for a 16-year-old white teenager wearing black clothing. Instead, they violently took down a 15-year-old black teenager wearing a white shirt and blue jeans. Wait, let's pause right there. Think about that. They were looking for a 16-year-old white teenager who had on black clothing. He was a runaway. Instead, they violently took down a 15-year-old black teenager wearing a white shirt and blue jeans. Wrong race, wrong clothing, wrong color, wrong person. Yet somehow the person who ended up with a broken arm, yeah, they broke his arm. He was not the suspect. He was not who they were looking for. It was Judah Everidge, a child who was trying to tell the officers, I'm not who you're looking for. As a matter of fact, he was helping them. He was supposed to be helping look for this kid. They say he was resisting body camera footage reportedly shows Judah on his knees with his hands raised while officers forced him to the ground. As they pinned him down, he cried out, my arm, you're breaking my arm. What happened next is almost as predictable as the takedown itself. One officer quietly resigned. Not because he admitted wrongdoing, not because the department publicly acknowledged excessive force, not because a child suffered a broken arm after being mistaken for someone else. He resigned to pursue new career opportunities. Meaning, he, while thanking the department for helping him grow professionally and personally. Professionally? What profession allows you to violently seize the wrong child, leaving with a broken arm, and then walk away with a resignation letter instead of criminal charges? This is one of the greatest double standards in American policing. Because what he's going to do is, he's going to move on to the next police force. He done did so much dirt on the police force he was in, it's time to move on. And they'll hire him. Imagine if an ordinary citizen tackled the wrong teenager, ignored his cries that he wasn't the person they wanted, broke his arm, and then claimed they just made a mistake. That person wouldn't be writing a resignation letter. They'd be writing a statement for their defense attorney, especially if that was a black person that ran down a white person and broke his arm. And here's what should concern every American. The officer who resigned had complaints involving aggressive behavior. Told you that. And questions more improperly applying the law and failing to activate his body camera during another encounter because he's doing dirt. Another officer involved also had a prior body camera violation. See, every time they don't turn on them goddamn body cameras, you should lock their ass up because they didn't turn them on, or they turned them off so they could do something dirty and illegal. How many warning signs does a department need to be before it recognizes a pattern instead of calling each incident an isolated mistake? Because it wasn't no mistake. Departments often tell us that body cameras create accountability. Cameras don't create accountability. Consequences create accountability. Without consequences, body cameras simply record misconduct for the evening news. This case also exposes another dangerous reality. When police make a mistake, the burden often falls on the innocent citizen to prove they are not the person officers have already decided they are. Judah repeatedly tried to explain. He was not fleeing. He wasn't attacking nobody. He wasn't attacking anybody. He wasn't even dressed like the person officers were supposedly searching for. Furthermore, and this is the insane part, they're looking for a white dude. This is a black kid. A black child. He wasn't even dressed like the person officers were supposedly looking for. Yet his explanation was met with force and brutality and abuse instead of investigation. And that raises a question every parent should be asking. If a child can comply, raise his hands to officers, they have the wrong person, and still leave with a broken arm, what exactly is compliance supposed to accomplish? A badge is not a license to abandon judgment. A mistake is understandable. Breaking the arm of the wrong child because officers failed or decided not to verify the most basic identifying characteristic, that's not a mistake. It's not a failure of training, supervision. It's a failure of accountability and expectation of accountability. Bottom line, we got this, and where we gonna do it? Until police departments begin treating unjustified force against innocent people as seriously as they treat crimes committed against officers, these stories are to continue to repeat themselves. The names will change, the cities will change, the excuses will remain exactly the same. Reality, your racism, bigotry, and psychotic hate is no excuse. Just an open eye. WHGE 95.3 FM. All right. I see you, brother Jafar, Anthony. All right. 4 young lives, 4 families, 1 demand, the truth. 4 young black men, 4 lives cut short. 4 families forever changed. 4 communities still searching for answers. Kadir Skinner, 19 years old, fatally shot by police in Wilmington in June of 2026. His death sparked public outrage, with his family and community demanding the release of all evidence and a full, transparent accounting of what happened. Nolan Wells, 18 years old, found dead near Horn Island, Mississippi on July 6, 2026 after a 4th of July boating trip. Gerard Jackson, 28, found dead in a wooded area near Rothbury, Michigan, following the Electric Forest Festival. Daniel Mike Irving, 18, found dead in a lake in Rowlett, Texas, in April of 2026 after a fishing trip with 2 white companions. Different states, different circumstances, one common principle. Every death deserves a complete, independent, and transparent investigation. Every family deserves the truth, not speculation, delay, or unanswered questions. Justice requires facts. Accountability requires transparency. Public trust requires both. 4 young lives, 4 grieving families, 4 communities refusing to forget. One demand: the whole truth, full accountability, and justice. I'm Patrice Gibbs. WHGE 95.3 FM. Today there will be a flash protest at the Attorney General's house. That'll be today, 4 p.m. 1801 Woodlawn Avenue. I don't know if I get in trouble for telling y'all that or not, but I just told you. Why? Let me give you some context. Some context about America. Some context about your situation in America, so you understand where you are from the very beginning. From the start of 2022 through the end of 2025, a period of 4 years, American police killed more than 5,000 people. That's an average of roughly 3.5 people every single day. Yeah, King Shahid Bolson, I want to thank him for this. In 2022, police killed 1,176 people, a record at the time. In 2023, that record was broken again, with 1,213 people killed. In 2024, the record was broken once again with 1,365 people killed. In all of 2025, there were only 6 days out of 365 on which American police did not kill anyone. For just 6 days, for less than a week out of the entire year, the killing stopped. During the other 359 days, someone died at the hands of the police. Now consider the racial breakdown, because this reveals something about the country itself. Black Americans make up about 12% of the U.S. population, yet they account for roughly 24% of the people shot and killed by police. 1 out of every 4 people killed by police is black, despite black people being only about 1 out of every 8 Americans. Then consider accountability. Less than 3% of police killings ever result in criminal charges. Even among the small number of cases where charges are filed, fewer than 1% ultimately result in a conviction. For 4 years straight, American police have killed on average 3.5 people every day. More than 97 out of every 100 officers involved in those killings face no criminal consequences. No charges, no trial, no conviction, back on the street, back in the patrol car, back on duty. Now compare that with the United Kingdom. With a population of roughly 60 million people, police in England shot and killed 2 people during the entire 2024-2025 period. 2 people over 2 years. Meanwhile, California alone recorded just one state, well over 100 fatal police shootings during 2025. One state. You have built a country where police kill at a rate many times higher than that of comparable democracies, while police slogans promise to build back better or make America great again. When was it ever? You built a court system where officers are rarely held accountable. You built a media environment where many victims' names disappear from public attention because their funerals are over. Over time, that shapes the national psyche. It teaches the same lesson every single day, 3.5 times a day, that your body does not fully belong to you. That your life can be taken by the state at any moment. See, statistics, they feel abstract until they have a name. And that name is, in Wilmington, is Kadir Skinner, 19 years old. Another young black man whose death at the hands of police became part of a conversation this country has been having for generations. His family has demanded answers. Witnesses have disputed aspects of the official account. The public is asked to see the evidence regardless of where any investigation ultimately leads. One reality is undeniable. Another family is burying a son after an encounter with the people sworn to protect the public. That's why these numbers matter. Every statistic represents a mother who got a phone call she never imagined receiving. Every statistic represents a father planning a funeral instead of a future. Every statistic represents brothers, sisters, children, classmates, neighbors, and entire communities left asking whether justice will ever mean accountability. A society should not become accustomed to fatal encounters between citizens and those entrusted with state power. When deaths become routine, when investigations become predictable, and when accountability is a rare exception rather than the rule, public confidence is gone. And well, it should be. The measure of a democracy is not simply how much authority it gives the government, it is how effectively it restrains that authority, demands transparency, and ensures that no one, not even those wearing a badge, is above the law. The names change, the grieving families change, the cities change, but the questions remain. Was this force necessary? Could this death have been prevented? Will there be a full, transparent accounting of what happened? And if the answers never come, the public will continue to lose faith, not only in policing, but in the promise that justice is supposed to apply equally to everyone. A nation cannot call itself free if too many of its citizens believe that an encounter with the state could become their last, and that the odds of meaningful accountability afterwards are vanishingly small. Until transparency, accountability, and equal justice become the rule rather than the exception, the debate will not end, because neither will the names or the victims. This is the open eye. I hope yours is. I'm Patrice Gibbs. WHGE 95.3 FM, the open eye. I'm Patrice Gibbs. I hope you learned something today, because I learned something before I got here. Something I learned a long time ago from studying Kemet, from studying Egypt, is the importance of societal balance. Because if there's no balance, then what you have are people that are oppressed. And of course here, you have a bunch of psychopaths running the government. You can sure as hell, you can be sure as hell there is no balance. Your government is killing people in the street, and people are afraid to even speak up and do something about it. Your politicians have sold out. Half your population is uneducated and downright stupid. This is an open eye. And as we always tell you, destiny determines who enters your life, but you decide who stays. Therefore, value those who value you, and don't treat those as a priority. And treat you as an option. Thanks for joining us. I'm Patrice Gibbs on Open Eye. All right. Thank you for joining us. And moving right along. And as I always tell you, global African supremacy. Look what China is doing over in Africa. I'm a little skeptical of some of it, but I'm looking at some of the realities and the independence that many of these countries are achieving. Peace and love.